Hey, this is Jared Krause, host of the Buying Online Businesses podcast. And in this episode, I'm speaking with Isaac Smith from Summit Ecommerce. Now, Isaac's mission is to help 1,000 e-commerce businesses double their profits. And in this podcast episode, Isaac and I talk about why you need to know your numbers monthly and what it can cost you if you only know your numbers quarterly or annually, which is a strategy you don't want to have. And we'll talk about that. We also talk about a strategy for how to double your e-commerce profits. Now, that's not doubling the revenue. We're talking about doubling the profits of your e-commerce business or any business for that matter. That's how this strategy works. We also talk about how and why you should systematize your business before doing anything else, and why that leads into the whole how we should work less and make more. So I talk about how to do that. And I also share in this podcast episode, if you can spot it, this is one of the best pieces of advice I've ever given publicly. Normally I give this out to my clients in my mastermind, but this is one of the best pieces of advice I've ever given publicly. So stay tuned for that. Now, this is such an incredible episode. We talk about how to grow your business. Normally what I do is I teach people how to buy website businesses. So before you actually do go away and buy a website, make sure you do your due diligence and get my due diligence framework. It's in buyingonlinebusinesses.com/free resources. And there's some other awesome free resources out there too. Now, this is a very renowned framework that you don't want to miss if you're looking at buying a business. So that's it, guys. Let's jump into this episode and get some absolute golden nuggets from Isaac. Today's episode is brought to us by Niche Website Builders, which is a company a few of my clients are using and have used for content creation and link building services. They do everything from start to finish. So from keyword research all the way to uploading your completed article for you. We've also had Bob members buy ready-made affiliate sites built by Niche Website Builders. So if you're looking to outrank your competitors' content and build better backlinks, Niche Website Builders and I have a special deal for you. Head to nichewebsite.builders/Bob. I'll put a link in the show notes for you, but again, that's www.nichewebsite.builders/Bob. Hey, and welcome back everybody to another episode of the Buying Online Businesses podcast. Today we have Isaac. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here, man.
I'm excited for this conversation because we've talked a couple of times on your summit and on your podcast. And even before we did your podcast, we had a chat. And it was so long ago, I'd forget who actually linked us up. It might have been somebody from the drop shipping group.
Yep, Matt Scott.
Matt Scott, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
That's great, yeah. And Matt was actually one of the first people to come on the podcast, on the Buying Online Businesses podcast too. But
cool.
Today, yeah, which is really cool. So today we're going to be talking about bookkeeping. Now, to most people, don't just tune out right now.
Oh, they're gonna stop. They're gonna just hit
missing
stop
out
right
though.
now.
They're leaving money on the table. They're leaving money on the table.
Bookkeeping.
Yeah. No, but you guys are leaving money on the table if you don't understand this stuff and what we're going to be talking about. Because if we don't understand the numbers in our business, then we can't be making the right moves. And there's so many things that come into bookkeeping, with like scalability of a business and all this sort of stuff. This is a very broad question that I'm going to ask you, Zach, is how does bookkeeping actually help you grow your business? Now, I know there's many, many things, but like, what's a common explanation that you give to people on how bookkeeping is actually very important part of your business?
Great question. And thank you for continuing to listen at this point. We're going to make sure that this conversation about bookkeeping is as engaging as possible. And actually, I think bookkeeping is an engaging thing. And to me, before I answer your question, to me, bookkeeping is not about taxes. It's not about forms. It's not about paperwork and reports that you don't understand. If you hear the word bookkeeping and that's what you think, you just need a little bit more education and understanding that that is not at all what bookkeeping is about. First and foremost, bookkeeping is about understanding what's happening in your business, understanding how your company is actually performing, not how you think it is, not how it feels like, how it is actually performing. And if you don't know that, like I didn't for many years running my business, everybody knows about the entrepreneurial roller coaster, right? We've all been there. And a lot of that roller coaster, those highs and lows, are because you don't really feel like you're in control. And a lot of that is because you simply don't understand what's happening. Essentially, if you don't know what's happening, your brain is going to start telling you things. And usually it's not going to be the most positive things. Usually it's why you suck, you fail, your business is doing terribly. But if you have the numbers, your brain can't make up this false narrative, this story. So first and foremost, it's about understanding, and it's about smoothing out that roller coaster and actually having truth in your business. And then how it actually makes you money. Well, there are a lot of different ways that I could approach this question. But first and foremost, I think it's important to start with a healthy understanding of what knowing your numbers does for you.
What does that do for us?
Right. So then, I mean, one, it reduces your stress because you're not going into the unknown. You actually have data. Okay, so then if you do something in your business, let's say launch a new ad campaign or launch a new product line or whatever, and then you can see a result. Okay, so I did this and it produced this, or I did this, I thought it was going to produce this and it didn't. Right? So having data, and I'm not a crunch the numbers, I'm not a heavy data analytical kind of person. I'm actually a quite on the opposite end. I'm a quite, there are logic based people, there are emotional based people. Believe it or not, I'm the emotional based person. But, and so I don't like get into data and numbers like some people do. But having this information helps me as an, not make decisions on emotion. And that I think is really critical.
Yeah, absolutely. So you talked about like knowing your numbers can allow you to go, all right, cool. Now I can start a marketing campaign or I can launch a product line. By knowing your numbers, I guess you can like make a decision on how much money you can put into that advertising campaign and into that product range. Is that where this leads into?
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I can address your primary question more directly now after having that context. I feel like
Sure.
that context is critical.
Absolutely.
So the problem is like simply, okay. So what your listeners probably don't know about me is I have a mission that is to double the profits of 1,000 e-commerce businesses. Which is like it. First of all, that just gives me so much energy just saying that. So, okay, if we're going to double the profits, right? Keyword profit, right? A lot of people get hung up on revenue, but revenue can disappear. Profit is what can go in your pocket. Profit is what turns into cash flow, which turns into cash that you can put in your wallet. And that's important because so many people don't actually know how much profit they're making every single month. If you do right now it's the beginning of the year, and whenever this airs, it might be approaching tax time here in the States, or in Australia, maybe a different time. But a lot of people are in the US are thinking taxes now. If you're waiting until the tax time comes to figure out how much profit you made the previous year, you're already falling behind.
You need a tax estimate, right?
Right, but what I'm trying to say is you need to know how much profit your business is making every single month. If you don't know that every single month, you're, like you said at the beginning, you're leaving a lot of money on the table because there are things going on in your business that you don't understand. And if you did, you could make different decisions.
Yeah, like I want to lean into this. The time frames is critical because, like, say you leave your understanding your numbers to tax time once a year, you could go like you could be doing something in your business or paying for a bunch of expenses in your business that you no longer need, or you can have the perception of like, well, last year my business was making X amount of money, and I'm personally emotionally feeling better about my business, and it feels like I'm making more money. So I'm probably, I'm doing good. I'm doing really, really good. But you don't actually know this. You're not conscious of this because the last time you saw your numbers was based off like a year ago. And if you don't have that monthly snapshot of what's happening, is that you don't have your finger on the pulse. You don't know actually what's
Hmm.
costing you money, and you don't really know how much you're making, and you don't know what you should be doing with the short term plays. And people can lose their business in a matter of months, right? By
Yeah.
Because they don't understand the numbers. And this is a big part of the reason that I get a report every single month with my numbers on how much each of my businesses does, and expenses, and absolutely everything. Because if I was to leave it and I just feel, oh yeah, I'm doing really, really good, but I don't know the numbers, then I could put money into an advertising campaign that I don't actually have or can't afford. And that could really put a lot of stress on the business. And I could actually end up losing my business because I don't know if I can afford to do that or not. Is that what you've seen people do before?
Oh, yes. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't watch businesses come crashing down, but I see people who get stuck in that hamster wheel of not
Mm,
knowing why they can't get ahead.
yeah.
Like you see people just working and working and working on this business, and they get, around a lot of e-commerce people. I know people who are listening maybe in other online businesses, maybe affiliates, maybe content, whatever your dashboard is, for a lot of people I work with,
Mm,
the dashboard is Shopify or Amazon, their Amazon seller account or
mm,
whatever. And if that's what's telling you how your business is doing, that number that Shopify says, or that Amazon or whatever your dashboard says, you're
it's not
not getting
accurate
a whole
usually.
pic. Yeah, you
Yeah.
you see that number going up, but is your profitability going up, or is it
Hmm.
going down, or are your margins, so let's take a common example. People on who sell on Amazon, usually they're buying products from China, and they've negotiated a price, but maybe this is now their third reorder, and those prices are shifting. The cost of shipping is shifting over time, and Amazon's fees are shifting. And now this is a year and a half later, and you're still going off what you did at the beginning, off your
Mm,
cost estimate at the beginning. Well, now your profitability, your margin is entirely different, and that top number keeps going up, and you think, I'm making more money. But a lot of times you're making less and less money. You're working harder and harder to make less money because shipping has gotten more expensive or whatever, and you haven't kept your eye on that. You took your eye off the ball. This
yeah.
happens so much, so much.
Yeah. When you're doing small numbers, it's you can get away with a few things, right? But when the numbers get bigger, like 10%, 20% different, or 5% or a couple of percent different in price ranges, ends up being a catastrophic change, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and let's continue with this Amazon example.
Yeah, please. Yeah, let's
Some
do.
new competitors enter the market with a lower
Mhm.
price, and you go, okay, I'll reduce my prices by X, right? $5. Maybe that seems insignificant to you, but times 1,000 sales in a month, like this is an enormous amount of money over time. And
Yeah.
unless you're keeping your eye on it, you can really get carried away and end up, 3 years into your business, burnt out, and not understanding why you're working so hard, and you don't feel like you see there's this huge number, but why doesn't it feel like I'm generating wealth? Well, that's why.
Yeah, yeah, and you reduce your prices because you need to compete with competitors, and the competitors are putting more money into their PPC on Amazon, and you're doing
Hmm.
the same. And but you go like, oh well, my revenue's increasing, so
Right.
like you said, I'm making more money, but you're not factoring in, or you're not looking at the numbers of you spending more, reducing prices, shipping may go up, The product price may even go up. Your margin, profit margin per product and per order of product can change every single time. And in fact, I guess it probably does, right? With exchange rates and everything, it'd be very different every single month.
Yeah, and your return on ad spend, like you alluded to, is going down. And it's not, we're painting kind of a gloomy picture, but it's not always gloomy.
But we want to understand what the causes and what the risks are. So now that we know what they are, what do we do about that? How do we solve this?
Right. Yeah. So yeah, like we're saying, it's not always gloomy, but if you are just letting it slide, see, here's the deal. Entrepreneurs are really passionate people, and we get really excited about building the business. And so there are certain aspects of the business, and I do this too. I'm an entrepreneur. A certain, the excitement of building the business, like growing the sales, launching a new product or whatever, that's what gets us excited. And so we get, when it comes to the operations or, just simply the foundation of what is supporting all of this, we tend to neglect it. So you ask, all right, so what's the solution? I mean, there are a lot of solutions, but first and foremost, you have to get your head around the numbers, right? Business, even if you're a logic-based person, you may just feel this innately. If you're an emotional-based person like me, you just need to understand that business fundamentally is about numbers. You may have a mission and a goal and something that you want to achieve. Maybe you want to help, people maybe you're in a fitness space and you want people to be more fit, or, that's a mission. Like I said, my mission is to help people double the profits of their business, right? But ultimately, it is going to come down to numbers. So you just need to get clear on your numbers at least once a month. My partner Jason and I, in our business, we do the numbers every single week, Monday morning. In fact, yesterday we had kind of a special staff meeting, so we skipped it. But today, right after this call, we're doing our weekly finance meeting. Every single week, we're doing this, and so we're watching every single expense that comes in, and so we're getting very, very clear. Now, that alone is not going to give you more money, but that's going to give you a clear understanding of where you are. Once you have that, then you can set plans to grow those numbers. But that comes first. So like I talk about, this mission to double the profits of 1,000 e-commerce companies. If you want to double your profits, and even if you're not an e-commerce company, if you want to double your profits to 2x, that requires you having what 1x is, right? You cannot 2x without knowing what 1x is. You can't even set a goal.
I love this. I love this so much. You need to understand where you're at now to be able to use that data and that information to double your profit. So let me ask, and I know this is a very broad question, and we can break it down and decompartmentalize this. How does one double their profits for an e-commerce business? Like once you know where you're at and you've got 1x, how do we use that data to double our profits?
Absolutely. Question. Good question. So this is where it becomes very nuanced, and it's going to be different for everybody out there. So I have a broader mission, and it's not only going to be done with financial tools, but it's also going to be done with, if you get better at your marketing, right? Everybody understands you can grow your sales. But let's stick with the numbers for a minute here. Here's one thing that my partner and I went through just a couple of weeks ago, right? It's the beginning of the year. We're setting goals, all of this. And we were trying to set our goals for the year. We're like, okay, yeah, we need to go out and we need to get sales. We need to do this. We need to do that. But honestly, we were struggling a little bit. And then what we did was I just was like, okay, so we're a service business, right? We provide bookkeeping services, and we also help people build their teams through coaching. But let's stick with the bookkeeping service. We go, okay, so what does our staff look like right now? Okay, we've got one full-time bookkeeper, we have one full-time manager, and the bookkeeper can handle, let's just say, 14 customers until she's maxed out at a 40-hour work week. We had to ask her this, how many, how many customers until
Can
you
you
feel
max
like you're
out?
maxed out? And then we go, okay, we don't want her maxed out. We want to have some room for her, to grow her career, education. So let's implement an 80% rule. So we want 80% of your time spent on bookkeeping work. How many customers is that? It's about 10. Okay. So one bookkeeper can handle 10 customers. Okay. How much are these customers paying us? Okay, we have
X amount.
now we have one bookkeeper can support X dollars in revenue, and one bookkeeper we have to pay her Y amount. Okay, we also need a manager, and we go through these things, and so once we put this together, and we just did this 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Once we put that together, it became so clear to us. Like, wow, this is how we can scale. Okay. So our goal, if we want to hit X dollars in revenue this quarter, that means we need to bring on 8 new customers. It was 8. So that's our goal, 8 monthly bookkeeping customers. Okay. So how can we do that with our current staff? Well, we can't. So we need to hire one part-time bookkeeper to fill that, to take up that slack. Yeah. So I'm just showing you, I'm laying out, this is what I call unit economics. And I know, to go back to the Amazon example, you may have done something like that. In fact, it reminded me of the days when I was selling on Amazon and it was a total failure. But I did this calculation. Okay, if I bought 1,000 items from manufacturer, right, they all cost this much per unit. Okay.
Just say $1,000, $1 per unit. So you spend $1,000 on that one product, yeah?
Sure. Yeah. And shipping is going to cost $800 and then spread across the 1,000 units. Okay. So that's maybe 80 cents or whatever. So you break this thing down. And I know for e-commerce, for Amazon sellers, they're comfortable with that because they had to start out that way. Now, it's important to revisit this over time. And if you are, I'm less familiar with other types of businesses like affiliates, but let's say you have a content writer.
Yeah,
we can, a content writer, it costs you how much per article, right? And how much revenue is each article expected to bring in? You can do these things. But if you don't know your numbers at the most basic level, you can't even do that kind of stuff. And so once you have that information, this is what my partner and I did. We realized, okay, well, crap, we don't want our customers angry at us. So first, we need to get another bookkeeper before we go and pour on the sales, right? Because then people are going to get upset. They're going to leave, right? So first, we need to go take care of that, get that other bookkeeper in place. Now we can bring on more sales. And what that does is it gives you confidence in what you're doing. Like, I know with absolute certainty that we're going to hit our goals, right? And it frees me up to go do the marketing and the sales.
Yeah, it's brilliant because once you know how much it costs you to acquire a customer, you just go, if I want to acquire X customers, it's going to cost me this much money, and I put this much money into ad spend. And you can say with Amazon, this is what I do with people that are in my mastermind. Actually, is that I've got somebody that owns an e-commerce business that's not running through Amazon, and we know how much money he spends on advertising, and we know how much money he makes, and we also know how much it costs to acquire a customer. So if he wants to double his business, it's quite logical that if you double your ad spend, right, and you may need to change your ads and tweak them and do a few little things each month, might need to change a little bit, which is why we still need to be checking our monthly numbers every single month. Because if we made this projection of like, if we double everything, like the ad spend, then we'll double the sales within a year. Well, no, things can change in the meantime, in those months. So we need to stay, like what you're saying, on top of the numbers. But once we understand this, we understand our 1x and where our business is logically and very confidently, we can predict how much we can grow and how easily it can be done to double the sales, or double, not just the sales, but double the profit as well.
Yeah.
And if you understand if you end up buying more products, then your profit can increase as well. So the compounding of doing this the right way really works out, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And here's another thing that we really need to mention at this point. We're talking about the unit economics. So whether you're a service business, a content provider, you sell on Amazon, like we said, those numbers, you probably have had them figured out in the beginning, but they've shifted over time. For sure, they have. And so if you stay on top of them, let's say you're an Amazon seller and you have 10 SKUs. Chances are, the rule of 80-20, chances are there are 2 or 3 best sellers that are bringing in the bulk of your profit. And then you have the rest that are bringing in much smaller amounts. But how much time, how much energy, how much capital is it taking you to continue to purchase more of those and advertise them well and make sure their listings aren't getting suspended and making sure that competitors aren't coming in and soaking up all your PPC ROAS, the point is, like, if you know that I have 3 products that are generating 80% of my profit, and I have these 7 that are generating the rest, it might make sense to just drop them and don't reorder more and pour all of that energy. When I'm talking, money, yes.
Resources, all those time and money resources, yeah.
Time, money, your staff's time on these 3 that are generating the bulk, and just double down on those. You'll grow faster. But if you don't know that, and most people don't know that, you're just going to continue forging ahead and making less progress than you would if you knew that. So that's where we can start to get into actually making more money. Yeah. Because you know your numbers.
Yeah, making more money with less work. You've just got 7 products and 7 different things that you need to think about, times the amount of other things that are involved with those 7 different products. Like, I'm so glad that you mentioned this, because I tell people or ask them, like, what are you going to do to grow this business once you buy it, right? Like, I teach people to buy website businesses and online businesses. And like, what are the opportunities that you see, and what could you do to grow it? A lot of people for an e-commerce business say, to grow this, I'll just add more products. And I am like, in fact, you need to do the exact opposite. You need to remove, and this is what has helped me scale my mastermind clients' businesses as well. It's like, let's not sell those things. Let's not bother with that. Let's just go all in on what's really, really working. And even like change the product descriptions on the site, put those, those top 3 products on the top of the page. There's so many things that you can do, which will still be less work and make you more money. And that's what I think most of us get online for, is to work less and earn more.
I love this. So let's take that. Let's keep going on that for a little bit. So if we're talking Amazon, of course you could be selling in any number of places, but Amazon seems to be the thing at the moment. Anyway, we'll use that example.
For sure.
The market is always in flux. They're coming out with new features, right? You can do, a couple of years ago, they came out with A+ content, right? You can put so much more graphics and text on your product page. You can, different keywords start performing better, and all of this stuff. So if you want to really, really boost sales and keep them boosted, that takes, like we talked about, resources. And so, that what was it? There was a new thing. Now you can vlog or something. You can do videos. You can go live on Amazon or so. I read
Really?
I don't know if you can, but I read an article that they're testing this for certain sellers. But like, that's the thing. Amazon is always coming out with new things that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And most of us put a product up and let it sit there, and then we go try and build more products. And we kind of ignore these things like, okay, they're making money, they're doing great. But if instead, like you said, you put your energy on that and just really kept that pedal to the metal, like that could be doing so much better. Bookkeeping, knowing your numbers hit me really hard in a personal way. So I was running an e-commerce business. I was doing drop shipping for many years, and I sold my main primary business in 2019. Before that, 2018, I was having a really difficult year, emotionally, mentally, because my sales started dropping. And for a number of reasons, it's a much larger story that I won't get into right now, but my sales started dropping in January, February. March was a record month, but then, it continued declining. I was really starting to feel bad about myself. I had just hired a really great full-time person, and now my staff expenses were higher, and it's like, oh no, all this stress, this thing is going to crash to zero, is just what my brain was telling me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in that I sort of made the decision to sell. But what I didn't know at the time, and what I figured out later on, because when you sell your business, you have to provide all of the financial information, as
Yeah.
well as when you buy, right? You need to know that information. Otherwise, no one will buy.
Mm-hmm.
So long story short, I did have accountants that I didn't really understand what they were doing. I didn't feel confident in what they did. So I did my own deep dive on my numbers. Do you know what I found out? I was becoming more profitable. I was getting better margins over time, even though my sales were declining. And so all this time I was feeling really bad about myself. Like I said, your brain can tell you some stories because it just sees a number, it sees it declining, and it freaks out. And it tells you you're a terrible entrepreneur, right? Your wife is going to be upset with you. Like, these are the kinds of things that your brain can tell you.
Yeah.
But if I just had known that I was becoming more profitable on less revenue, I would say, oh, well, that's not true. And
Yeah.
the story would disappear.
Disappear, and you'd feel even better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, of course, there's nuance to any story like this. And we don't really have time to get into all of it. But the other thing was, I was having less and less work to do
Yeah.
because my sales were declining, and that was worrying me. Like, I
Yeah.
felt like, what am I got to do something. I have to be active, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's like less work for me to do. So yes, absolutely. Um, you can make money and work less, right? But I didn't know that's what was happening. Now, I don't ever want my revenue to decline. I want my profits to grow. But so it wasn't an entirely happy moment when I realized what was going on. It wasn't like the entrepreneur's mountaintop moment.
Yeah.
But once I knew that, I knew what I could do, and I adjusted. And it made you know, made all of those months of anxiety really put that in perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a massive, massive mindset shift. And that's all just like by you understanding your business. And I think that's
Hmm.
so, like, we just keep emphasizing how important that is. I'm so grateful for you coming on and talking about this and sharing your story. It's really good to hear that story, and I'm glad you did share that because it puts it into perspective for people that are running a business and are not conscious of what's going on. So guys, get somebody on your team that can help you understand your business, because you can work less and earn more. In fact, I tested this out in 2020. The less I worked, the more money I made. I know that sounds very, very odd, but that meant, and what I did for this to happen is I just became really hyper focused on what was working in my business, what wasn't working in my business, and just lent into more of what was working. Like that right there, if there's anything you ever hear from me ever again is and you want to take the best piece of advice, is that right there, is that find out what's working, lean into more of it, and remove what's not, because that's what works, and you can make more with less. But there's only one way to do that. It's to understand your business and understand your numbers, like what you're saying, Isaac. So thanks so much for coming on. Where can we get people to go away and check out what you're doing to help people double their e-commerce profits? Because this is so critical.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, it's my pleasure and an honor to be here and to share with your listeners. If you want to chat about your books, we don't have to have any special formal sales call or anything like that. You can reach out to me. You can go to the website. It's summitecommerce.co. And you'll find contact information there to schedule a free call with me. No pressure. I'm not going to put you in a sales, not going to do any high pressure sales or anything like that. If you just have questions and you're curious, I'm happy to have a chat with anybody who is interested. If you want to reach out to me on Facebook, that's cool too. If you want to check out the podcast, Jared was a guest. It's called Next Level E-commerce. Wherever you get your podcasts, we do e-commerce stories, the founder stories, ups, the downs, everything in between. That's really what it's about.
Amazing. Guys, check out the podcast. It's a great podcast. And thank you for being so generous with your time, not just on the podcast, Isaac, but, offering to have a chat with people. So guys, if you own an e-commerce business and you're wanting to double your profits, make sure you reach out to Isaac. He's an absolutely amazing human being. Everybody that's listening as well, thank you so much for listening. What I want you to do before we go is I want you to think of 1 to 2 people, maybe even 3 people who are either going to buy an e-commerce business or already own an e-commerce business and would like to double their profits. If you don't know anybody that doesn't want to double their profits, then you might need to find some more people that have actual, drive and goals. But share this episode with them. Share this episode with them so they can become conscious. That's the theme of this, is become conscious and understand what they need to do to double their profits in e-commerce business, or any business for that matter. So think of that. Think of those people. Share this podcast episode with them. That's it from us, guys. Thanks again, Isaac. Thanks everybody for listening, and I'll see you on the next one.